Hello, welcome to another reading. I'm Andrine, a Jewish American priestess, and I'm here to do a reading today with the Hebrunes. If you're interested in learning more about them or purchasing a set, please check my link below. And today we're going to do a different set of 3 readings, and we're going to use our Sovereign Oracle deck, which is an oracle card deck. Oops, I'll put the link to that also below. And we're going to pull out 3 cards from the Sovereign Oracle, and then we're going to do 3 readings based on those cards. You get to choose which one. And today we're going to do that on the theme of what is our shadow self trying to tell us right now? What is up with that? There's something coming through with the shadows as I perceive it these days, and I would like to know more about that. Maybe you too. There's one. Number 2. Because shadow and light are both essential for wholeness. And 3. We have 3 cards. Let's take a look at those cards. And then I will put the timestamps down below for you to click on to find out what your reading says today. So our first card says ask. Card number 2 is resolve. And card number 3, alignment. Okay, so take a moment to determine which of these 3 cards, there's the presence. Which of these 3 cards or these 3 words or these 3 ideas is speaking to you today in terms of what your shadow wants to teach you right now? And I'll see you in your reading. All right, card number 1, for those of you who chose the card ask, this is what it says. Requesting aid takes courage. Verbalize your need for support. Give someone the gift of being an important part of your hero's journey. Delegate it to your guides. So right away that speaks to me in terms of if you are having a difficult time right now, and I think a bunch of us are. I think there's a big shift happening energetically in the universe, that it's important to remember that we can ask for help, that in fact it's giving someone a gift to request their assistance, and that it's also okay to ask for help from guides, from the divine. So that being the case, let's pull out some Hebrunes today and find out further clarification about this injunction to ask. First letter we have coming up is the letter Bet. Number 2 we have Tav. We have the letter Gimel. The letter Resh. Lamed. And Kuf. All right, well, let's start with these and see if there's a need for more in the near future. So Bet is the letter that is in the top position of the star. And that letter, that position, represents that which is coming down from the divine. What is the message coming down from the divine right now? And the letter we have, Bet, represents a house. It's the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet, but it represents a house or the home. When I think of that in terms of this position of what is coming down from the divine is that we have a home here on the earth, that we have a home here in this body that we have been given, and that we should, I want to use the word should, it is beneficial to us and to others to give thanks for the home that we have been given, that home on the planet Earth, that home in this universe, that home in the bodies where we dwell, and that it is imperative that we take care of that. And that we ask, if we are in need of more comfort, if we're in need of more shelter, perhaps. It's wherever our soul dwells. And it does speak to beginnings because it is the first letter of Torah. It's the word Bereshit, which means in the beginning. And it rules over the day of Shabbat, which is the day of rest. So what I'm getting from this in terms of this time of shadow self is that perhaps what's coming down from the divine is this giving of a place for our soul to dwell where we can rest. And that when we find ourselves in a shadowy place, to take time to care for our body, maybe even care for the earth as we go outside and do something that is beneficial for our planet where we live. But again, express gratitude for the dwelling place of our soul. And we can even think of that in a bigger picture, in the spiritual way, that we have this this spiritual place to dwell, that the divine itself, that this position, this divine itself, is a dwelling place for our soul, and that we can ask for help from the divine in whatever darkness we're going through. The next letter is in the lower right corner of the star. It's the letter, the position that represents what we know about the situation. And we have this letter Tav in this, what is known about our situation. Tav is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And so it speaks to completion, that there will be an end to whatever we're facing right now, whatever struggles we're having. That there will be something that comes to completion around that. It has this idea of, renewal as well, because when things come to an end, generally in cycles, things start again. So what we know about the situation, that it will come to an end, and that something new will begin. Something new will be born out of whatever finishes. This letter is a stamp or a seal. And so to me, it speaks to this idea that we have stamped on us the imprint of previous lives and previous generations that have come before us. And that we can, again, rely on those ancestors as well. So as we speak to asking our guides and delegating it to our guides, know that the ancestors are there for us, watching over us. What's unknown about the situation is the lower left corner, and we have the letter Gimel. And Gimel is a foot. It's about walking forward. That we, perhaps right now, everything seems very stagnant, so it's difficult to see forward movement. But forward movement is happening regardless of whether we can see it or not. And that's something that is being shown to us here, that even though things seem very stuck, things seem very still as we face the shadow, as we face the darkness that's coming, that there is movement, there is forward movement happening, even under the surface of our understanding. So we can know that now that's been shown to us. What's coming up from below? What is the root cause of all of this? We have the Resh, and Resh is the letter that begins the word Rosh, which means head. So there's something that has been beginning, something that has begun, some new thing. Interesting that it comes right below the Beit, so Bereshit, that we've got both from the top, the Bet, and the bottom, the Resh. So we've got Bereshit here, that some new thing has happened, something has has shifted. There's been some newness that has been the root cause of whatever this darkness is right now. Something new has happened, and we can understand that the seed that's been planted here, this is the binary foundation of seed and barrenness, that there's been this beginning, and that something is growing. And when things grow, it's always painful. When a seed breaks through its husk, or when the plant breaks through the earth, it's work. It's hard work. But we can trust that. We can delegate that to our guides too. We don't stand there making a seed grow. We just plant the seed, and we trust that it will grow. But there's still difficulty. There's still challenge and pain when growth begins. So that's our root cause of the shadow situation we're in. And what's challenging, this is the position of what their fear or challenge is. And we have the Lamed. And the Lamed is about reaching up with hope. And maybe we've lost some hope, maybe because this darkness is shadowing over us right now, that there's been some fear that things won't turn out the way we had hoped after we planted that seed. But Lamed is the letter that reaches up with hope. So it's about reaching up with hope, and it's about learning and teaching and about digesting what it is we've received already. So that's definitely a concern that maybe we won't be able to take the action we need to take, or that something about our heart is being damaged or covered over. The word heart is lev, and Lamed begins that word lev. So maybe something about our heart, that there's some kind of wounding or aching that's going on right now. And that's valid. That's totally valid. And over here is our advice for the situation in the upper right corner, and we have the letter Kuf. And I love this because Kuf is the letter that corresponds to this month of Adar. And it's about holiness. It's about resting in holiness. And also having a little fun. It's also the word kof, which means monkey. So there's something about finding a little joy, and also finding the sacredness in that joy and in that fun that we're having. And I think that comes back to asking that we have this home that we've been given. It's time to reach in and rest and take care of that home, that we can know that things will come to an end and change, that although we can't see it, forward movement is happening, that we've planted this seed, and it's always challenging when a new thing begins, that although we may have fear or are losing hope or having aching in our heart, that what we can do right now is try to find our joy, try to find a little playfulness, and also to know that is sacred. And so for those of you who chose the Ask card, remember that requesting aid takes courage. Verbalize your need for support. Give someone the gift of being an important part of your hero's journey, and delegate it to your guides. And with that, I wish you Shavua Tov, have a happy week, and I will see you here next time. For those of you who chose card number 2 and the word resolve, this is what your card says. Align to the heart of your desire, then fan the flames of action. Great feats are possible. Find validation in past successes. Let your will be stronger than your self-doubt. Resolve. Okay, let's pull out some Hebrunes to get some more clarity about how this interacts with our shadow self. I'm going to lay the letters down, and then we'll go through and read them each. All right. So Our top position is the position that represents what's coming down from above. And we have the letter Aleph, which is beautiful. It is the first letter of the alphabet. It is that initial manifestation of divinity. It is the number one. So that oneness we have right now. And when we're speaking about the shadow, again, wholeness, which is all things, not just the good parts of anything, and resolve, it is important to start with Aleph, that Aleph comes from the divine, that we have this Yud above and a Yud below and a Vav between. So we have the idea of divinity above and divinity below as well. So both in the heavens and the earth, and this connection piece between, which both divides and unites the oneness and the allness of all things. So that's a beautiful way to start. And to, again, start our resolve is to remember that all is one, that all is one, as we face the shadow of whatever's happening in our life. And what this lower right corner speaks to is, what do we know about our situation? And what we know about our situation is Gimel. And Gimel is the letter that stands for movement. It's a foot. It's running forward to do justice. And we know that moving forward is important. We know that with the resolve, we are expected to take a step forward, that we need to make up our minds to what we're going to do and do it. And that even though things look dark right now, the Gimel in this position is saying, yeah, go forward, move forward in some direction with guidance from the Aleph, with guidance from the One. And that will be our first step. And what's unseen right now is the Lamed. The Lamed, this is the position of the unseen, and the Lamed is the letter that reaches above the line. So it's connection with divinity. So even though we may not be feeling it, we are connected to the divine, that we can reach up with heart. Lev, which means heart in Hebrew, starts with the letter Lamed. So we can reach up with heart and hope, even if we're unable to feel that connection or see that connection right now, that we know that we are learning and teaching, the limud v'lamed, that we are both learning something and teaching something to ourselves, to others, as we reach up and connect with divinity. That we're taking information in and digesting it. It corresponds to the intestines in the body. So something is coming into us. We're being able to absorb what's necessary and release what isn't. So that is what's unseen right now in our situation. Our root cause down here is the letter Kuf. And the letter Kuf is the letter that means holy. It's kadosh. It's the holiness, kedusha. Or monkey, which is Kof. And you can see it's got a little monkey tail here. So we've got this combination of sacredness and animalistic nature. It's something that is our root cause, is we've got this combination of holiness and sacredness. It is the number 100 in Gematria, and here we have 1 above coming down from the heavens and 100 coming up from below. And I love that our root cause of our situation is this maybe integration between holiness and animal nature. It's also the letter that begins the month of, that corresponds to the month of Adar, which is where we are now in the calendar. We just passed through Purim, where we have a little bit of fun and really lean into that joyful monkey business that we might have, but also recognize the sacredness in all things. So that's our root cause of our darkness, is maybe we've indulged a little too much, or maybe we've missed out on integrating the sacredness and the animalistic nature of ourselves. So that's what's going on in part with our shadow self that we're dealing with right now. That maybe it's important right now to find some integration. And the challenge here, or the fear in the upper left corner, is the letter Yud. And the letter Yud is the number 10. So we've got 1, 10, and 100 all right here. And if you go back up to the Aleph, when you spell it, pronounce it Aleph, is 1,000. So we've got 1, 10, 100, and 1,000 all here in this reading. And so there's some kind of these ultimate manifestations of the One. And with the challenge here, the Yud, the first letter of the divine name, it's a seed. It's this sacred seed. And maybe we're having challenges with having planted a seed and the pain that it causes when it bursts forth from its husk, or when it penetrates through the ground as a plant grows. And that's always a challenge, where there's a fear that we planted a seed and it won't grow. But whatever the case is, we can remember that we have this oneness, that 10 distills down to 1, just as 100 distills down to 1, just as 1 and 1,000 all come back to oneness. Everything comes back to oneness, I guess, is the point. So we have this concern or a challenge with the One. And that's again, really valid to understand. And here we have in our advice for the situation, we have the letter Chet. And Chet is the letter that means darkness. It's choshek, but it also means life. Chai is life. So it's both those things, both life and darkness. It's the number 8, which corresponds to the infinite, because of that 8 and that infinity loop when you put it on its side. It's also about commitments and covenants that one might make with the One. So our advice here is to lean in to that commitment and that covenant that we have with ourselves, with the divine, with the infinite, to lean into the shadow, to understand that darkness is just part of the situation, that things will shift, that life is born out of darkness, that we begin in a place when that seed is planted in darkness, and finally we are born into light. So those are the things to remember, and that we have the resolve to move forward and be born. So we have the One coming down from above, remembering that we are infinitely connected with divinity, that it's time to move forward, that we have the step forward that we have to make. We need to make a resolve to move, despite the inability possibly to see through the darkness right now, through the shadow. That what's unseen is that we are connected to the divine even when we don't feel it. That our hearts are connected. That we have the ability to, as this card says, align to the heart of our desire, and then fan those flames into action. That although we may fear that we've planted a seed and we can't see it growing, or that we feel it growing and it hurts, that we need to remember that the root cause is the holiness, is that balance between holiness and animal nature. That we feel things physically in our bodies because here we are living in our bodies, but the holiness still comes from divinity. And that life is born out of darkness, that Chai is born from Choshek, and that we can lean into our connection, our covenant with the divine as we embrace the infinite. And for those of you who chose the Resolve card, again, remember, align to the heart of your desire and fan the flames of action. Great feats are possible. Find validation in past successes, and let your will be stronger than your self-doubt. So for those of you who chose Resolve in this beautiful reading, thank you so much for watching, and I wish you Shavua Tov. Have a great week. I'll see you next time. Hello, those of you who chose the third card of alignment. Here's what your card says. Explore energy first. Matter will follow. Find the spine, yours or the one in the situation. Address the source and everything will fall into place. What a lovely thought when we're going through a shadow time or a dark night of the soul. Let's pull out some Hebrunes to further clarify. I'm going to lay these down and then we'll go through and read each of them. Coming down from the top, we have the Ein Sof. Beautiful. Wow. Okay. So, coming down from the top, what is being sent to us from the divine right now? And this is a little, well, it's the Ein Sof. And the Ein Sof is that comes before all time. That without end means no end, Ein Sof. It is the blankness that represents all of existence before creation happened. And it's a little bit terrifying sometimes to think about that blank space, that infinite possibility, and that some people consider it like emptiness, but in fact it's fullness, it's the fullness of all things. So what's coming down from above is infinite possibility, this ability to understand that we are and were and will be one again. And when I say one, I mean zero, like going back to before one. And I love that. That's hopeful for me. And I know that it can be a little frightening for others, but for me, it's really hopeful to align to that idea that oneness exists and zero-ness exists, that idea of no being, no thing is there for us behind all things. And what's known about our situation is Tav. And Tav is the last letter of the alphabet, and it means a stamp or a seal. It's about the finality of things, that all things change and end. Everything changes and ends except for the infinite, which does not change and end. So whatever darkness we're going through right now, we need to remember that it will not be like this forever, that things do change and end. This is interesting because this letter showed up in the same position in our very first reading today. And so we have this theme coming through that all things change and end, that we know that there's this finality to things, that there's this stamp and this seal on the all of creation, the everythingness. And the Tav is also this idea of rebirth, like re-beginning, because when things come to an end in a cyclical universe, that they begin again, just like the moon. This is the letter that rules over the moon in the sky. So the moon goes through its cycles where we have these times of complete darkness, and then we have these times of blinding light. We just came through the full moon, and we're heading back toward darkness right now. But it's a cycle, so it will change and it will end, and that things will begin again. And that's what we know about our situation. And what's unseen about our situation is the Resh. And the Resh is a beginning, that we don't see that new beginning yet because we're still on that slide down to the end. The fullness of the full moon just came through, and now it just looks like it's getting darker and darker. But what we don't see is there's this new beginning happening, Resh, which means Rosh, meaning head. And it's in the beginning, the Bereshit, the very first word of Torah, has the Resh right in it. And it is this binary transformation of seed and barrenness. So this idea that maybe we've planted something, but we don't see it yet because it's unknown. It's unknown what will be born. It's unknown whether that seed we planted will bear fruit. So that is the unknown thing right now. And that's sometimes dark, that's sometimes challenging. And what we have coming up from the bottom, the root cause of our situation, we have the letter Kaf, or Chaf. And it is about giving and receiving. It's the palm of a hand. So it kind of looks like this, where we have this palm of the hand, which is reaching out. And it's either extending its hand to give or extending its hand to receive. So it's this binary transformation of wealth and poverty. Like, we need to know what's the root cause of our shadow situation is that there's this transformation between wealth and poverty. And where do we land on that continuum? Are we holding on so tightly to our riches that we are becoming spiritually impoverished by maybe being greedy? Or are we being so afraid to ask for help that we are sitting in our poverty? And the kaf is the first letter of the word koach, which means power. So there's power there, and there could be power from both sides. Either a power that is being oppressive or a power that is being generous. But whatever it is, we've got this palm of our hand, which is maybe covering over or holding its hand out in generosity. And I think of it also as the hand of the divine sheltering us from whatever could be dangerous. The kaf rules over the sun in the sky, which can be incredibly life-giving, but also can be incredibly oppressive if we don't have appropriate shade. So it's finding that balance between the sun and the shade, that maybe we need the hands or the wings of the divine to shelter us right now with their hand. So yeah, that's the root cause of this binary foundation of wealth and poverty, the giving and receiving. And that's maybe caused a little bit of darkness and shadow in our life right now. In the upper left corner, we have the position which speaks to what are we fearing or what is our challenge right now. We have the letter Yud. And interestingly, this showed up in this same position in a different reading today too, that there's this seed again. We've got the resh, meaning seed and barrenness, but here's the seed itself, the Yud, the first letter of the divine name, the number 10, which reduces to 1, back to the oneness. And maybe there's a fear that seed will not burst forth, or maybe there's a pain because the seed is bursting forth and we don't see growth yet, but we just feel discomfort. We feel that part of us that is just not liking the change, or feeling like we need to hold ourselves inside the seed and not let it sprout. There's something that there's fear about growing, or there's fear about not growing, and both of those things can be true in the darkness. And that's where the seeds burst open, is in the darkness. They burst open, the shadow, when we're tucked under the earth. That's when the seeds grow. And I just planted seeds yesterday, so this is very ripe for me, that maybe there's a fear that our seeds will not grow. And that's, again, a valid fear. And our advice for a situation is Kuf. And this showed up in the same position in another reading today too. Kuf. Kuf, which is the letter that means holiness, sacredness, that which is designated for divine service, Kedusha. And it's that idea of the sacred dwelling within all things. And it's also the letter that begins the word Kof, meaning monkey. And you can see it has a little monkey tail there. So it's about our animalistic nature and having a really good time, having that monkey business that we have sometimes, particularly in this month of Purim. And it's the month of Adar. It represents the month of Adar. So that's our advice right now, is have a little fun. Go out, have some joy. But remember the sacredness in it all. Remember the holiness and the reason why we're having joy, that it's coming from divinity. So we have the Ein Sof up here telling us that the infinite is coming down from above, and that is our blessing here. That we need to remember that all things change and end. That's a thing we can know. And that we don't know what's going to happen to the seeds we planted. That the beginning, we maybe don't see the beginning coming in. That our root cause is this balance between wealth and poverty, giving and receiving. That maybe we're fearing the growth of the seed bursting forth from its pod, or fearing that the seed won't burst forth from its pod, whichever the case. But our advice here is to find the holiness in the situation, to find the balance between our animalistic nature and that sacredness. And for those of you who chose the alignment card, I'm just going to read this one more time, get our message again. Explore energy first and matter will follow. I love that. Energy first, before matter. And that's the Ein Sof. That we can find the spine, our own or the one in the situation, and address the source, and everything will fall into place. And we can trust in that. So for those of you who chose alignment today, thank you so much for watching. I wish you a Shavua Tov, happy week. See you next time.